Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Weekend Review with me, EJ Borkhardt. Once again, the music in the introduction is from Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes. I do not own it. It is an excellent show, by the way. I highly recommend that you go and check it out. And the picture is another one from my friend from the story of the Guardians. This is Techie, the Guardian of Intelligence. It's a story I hope to write someday. It's one of my favorite ideas I've had for a story, and I'll get around to it eventually. So, this week in the Weekend Review, we are going to take a look at what happened this week in Chapter 15 of Ahir, Guardian of Malor. We're going to take a look at what has happened thus far in Rebellion in Akwar. I'll give you a sneak peek at what's coming this next week, and I have an announcement about my blog, followed by someone wrote in a question. I have a question to answer for you guys this week. It's very exciting for me. Please write me questions. I love answering questions for you. Anyway, this week in my blog starts out with we finally see Lang Khan in all of his glory, sitting upon a golden throne, surrounded by his minions, and Ahir, in the form of a black mist, is marched into his throne room with Torjad at his side, holding on to the sword, and Ahir walks into a cage and is locked in. Turns out that Milton was correct when he said that he thought that Lang Khan most likely could only project his consciousness into one body at a time, so therefore he has to take his consciousness out of Ahir in order to control his body again, which leaves Ahir in control of his. And then Lang Khan begins work on breaking the seal on the sword so that he can use it to get to his ultimate endgame. In the meantime, he puts Torjad in command of the rest of the Ava Severum, and he tells them to start opening portals to bring more humans through. And then it is revealed that Torjad has actually been the puppet master from the very beginning, controlling and manipulating Lang Khan to get him to this point. The point where he's about to take over the kingdom and become king, which Torjad would still be his advisor, and therefore be controlling Lang Khan and the country. This all happened because Torjad felt slighted and upset that Lang Khan's father put Lang Khan in charge as governor of Torjad's province, where he had been previously governing, and wanted him to babysit for him. He didn't see it as the honor that it was of training the next king. And then we switch to Milton and Trixie, who are just received their new artifacts from Loskrit. They talk with the king a bit, and they get their volunteers, and they head to the Nathair province, which is where Lang Khan's palace is. Once they get there, they charge into the city. They come across several humans that Lang Khan has transformed into monsters and forcing into attack the city, one of which is a small child that Trixie escorts to the edge of the city. Then they run into the large group of Ava Severum in front of Lang Khan's palace with more humans transformed into monsters. The fight begins. Trixie talks with the humans and tells them, hey, you don't have to listen to him. We're here to beat Lang Khan. Either stay and fight with us or leave the city. We'll get you out of here. To stay, to go. They decide to storm the palace, and one of the other Ava Severum follows them without them knowing it. So, that was this week of Ahir, Guardian of Malor. If you haven't checked it out yet, I suggest that you go ahead and do so. It is an exciting chapter because it is leading up to the end. The way that I see it currently, there is only one or two more chapters, 3 at most, of the story. So I'm excited to be coming to the end of a project so that I can start another one and start rewriting this one. I have a lot of ideas of how to remake Ahir and improve it. Mostly by including the story that led up to the beginning of Ahir alongside the story. So you're going to see Ahir and how he started out alongside with how this whole thing started, and it's going to progress further and further on side by side throughout the story. I think that will be a very interesting and fun way to write the chapters. Can't wait to get started on that project. Now, what has happened previously on the Rebellion in Akwar? Akwar is a planet that was originally completely covered in water. They had a very rare mineral on it called quarite that the scientists decided it was worth moving almost all the water off the surface of the planet, putting it or attaching it to a satellite and setting it up as an orbiting aquatic moon around the planet so that they can draw and add on to the water on the moon whenever they need it. And on this planet, the government has become corrupt, as most governments are. Can't trust politicians. You just can't. And on this planet, there's an orphanage where our hero Terran lives. He is part of the rebellion on the planet against the government, secretly, of course. Eugene, the man who raised him and he sees as a father, thinks that he has nothing to do with it because the rebellion got his parents killed. They were part of the rebellion. They were much more violent than the current rebellion and actually attacked the government instead of sabotaging things subtly in the background. And they were killed in the fighting. Now, the rebellion has continued on with its subtle ways, sabotaging equipment because of a man named Scott Daly, who is in charge of Daily Devices on Akwar, a company owned by his father, Harold Daly. The rebellion thinks that he's advising them, giving them the best practices to use for their attacks, but in reality, he's doing what he thinks is best for his business. He's using the rebellion to slow down the government's harvesting of quarite so that his company can get a better share of the planet's resources. And during one of these operations, a member of the rebellion gets captured, and they decide to set up a rescue attempt. That unfortunately fails because the people they sent were amateurs and they let their emotions get the best of them, and they made a lot of noise defacing public property when they were in the pedestal, which is the name of the government building where the council meets, or the Senate meets. I think it's a Senate. Probably. Yes, it's a Senate. So they get captured, except for one person who manages to escape, finds Terran outside of the pedestal waiting to see how the attack went. He tells him that everyone got captured, and Terran goes to Scott for help. Scott says, "I told you not to do this in the first place, get out." So they found no help from him. Immediately after this, the same night, a masked stranger, masked and cloaked, showed up at the pedestal and just wrecked the place. Broke walls, destroyed statues, attacked the soldiers, and was able to essentially drive them out, or make them hesitant enough that they didn't chase him down into the dungeons, where he destroyed the dungeons and freed the prisoners through secret tunnels. Obviously, the government's not happy about this. They are looking for the masked man now, and the rebellion meets because they have their rescued members, who now they and their families have to leave the planet because it's not safe for them there. And Scott has a feeling that Terran is the one behind this. He wants the scientists under him to figure out if it is him, if he was the one who stole the prototype for their new mining equipment, and if he is, return it, destroy it, and kill him. And that has been the story thus far. For your sneak peek for next week, it starts out with Lawrence, the new head scientist, shows up at the orphanage looking for Terran. And he wants to interview him, as Scott said, but Terran is not there. He's out doing some work. And then it switches over to the masked man approaching John, the leader of the rebellion. And they have a conversation there. And the chapter is going to end with the masked man making another attack on some government property. And you'll just have to come and see how that ends. It's an exciting chapter, a lot of conflict in it, and I recommend you come back and check it out. Now, for the announcement about my blog. I have been contemplating doing this for a long time. I just haven't done it yet. But for those of you who don't know, you only come for the stories. Every Thursday, I post an article analyzing a commercial that I found online during the week. Saying what's good, what's bad about it. If you don't care about commercials or advertising at all, come back on Thursdays and check it out anyway, just for the video. The ads I find are generally very funny and entertaining, so it'll be worth the watch. I've decided I want to make a second page for them, or a page dedicated for them to keeping track of all of these, so that people will be able to find my past articles more easily. So yes, that is the exciting announcement I have for my blog. Now, for the part I've been waiting for, the question. And this week's question is, what made you want to be a writer? To be perfectly honest, I had a very, very active imagination as a child. I enjoyed taking the characters I saw in my favorite TV shows and video games and making adventures with them in my mind. When I was with my cousins as a kid, we would run around playing outside, going on adventures, and usually I was the one who came up with what's going on and what we're doing. So I was telling stories way back when. They weren't original stories, but they were stories that I found entertaining. And I guess I always started writing stories as a little kid. I always enjoyed them, especially since reading was so important to me growing up. I guess the main thing that made me want to be a writer was looking up to those authors and saying, these guys come up with some really good stories. I think I have some good stories too. I want to try and write them. Writing is much harder than it would appear. Getting everything down on paper and making it sound right, getting all the grammar right is very, very difficult. Thank God I have a grammar Nazi as a best friend who loves to correct my every mistake, written or verbal. Yes, so I believe wanting to share my stories with other people is what made me want to be a writer. It certainly wasn't the money. Writers, you have to become very famous to be good at it and be able to do it full time, which I hope to be able to do someday. Just like my favorite author, Brandon Sanderson. He's a fantastic author. If you haven't ever read anything by him, definitely check him out. Every book / series he comes up with a completely new world with completely new rules for how everything works. And it's insane that someone was able to come up with this many different forms of reality. So yes, that has been the weekend review for July 19th. Come back next week for the next edition of the Weekend Review, where we will be reviewing the Super Morpher. And definitely come back this week and check out my blog. I love it when you guys read my stuff. It makes me feel excited and like what I'm doing is worthwhile. So I'm going to encourage you to come back and check it out. And all of you guys have a great day, a great week, and I will see you next week. Bye.